I discovered my boss's heartbreaking plan to terminate me through whispered Chinese secrets. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced as I hid behind the towering office plants, their waxy leaves just tall enough to shield me from the prying eyes. The air was thick with tension. I held my breath, straining to hear the low voices drifting from the conference room. She has to go. A whisper, so smooth yet chilling. It sent ice through my veins. I peered around the green foliage, my eyes locked onto my boss, Alan. His face was twisted, something dark sparking in his gaze. I felt my stomach drop. How could this be happening? I had poured my soul into this job. Late nights. Early mornings. All for this. I thought of my family, of my mother battling cancer. I couldn't let this be the end. It's her or me, you know that. My hands trembled. A cold sweat clung to my skin. I recognized the voice, Jen, the cunning coworker who had always looked for a chance to climb above me on the corporate ladder. The silence that followed felt deafening. In that moment, I remembered the countless times I had helped them, the way I had trusted them. I fought back tears. The walls seemed to close in. I pressed my back against the plant, hoping it could absorb my pain. They would talk about me behind my back while I built this fraying tapestry of loyalty. Go on, hear my heartbeat. It echoed in the silence like a distant drum. My mind raced as I tried to process the betrayal, but it seemed surreal, a twisted nightmare pulling me deeper into its chaos. With each word they exchanged, the ground beneath me felt more unstable. I had to leave this place. But where could I go? What more could I sacrifice to keep my job? I thought of my parents, the care they had shown me, and how hard they had fought to give me everything. The pressure to succeed had been relentless. I gathered my thoughts, barely clinging to reality. A sudden noise startled me. The glass door swung open, and Jen stepped out, her eyes scanning the room. I held my breath, frozen. She looked right at me. A sly smile crept across her lips. Did she know? My heart raced. Everything came crashing down. I had to find a way to turn this around. But how? Then, just before I could step out from my hiding spot, I heard something. A hidden detail, something that could change everything. My body stiffened, ready to confront the looming storm. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The fluorescent lights above flickered, casting a stuttered reflection of my unease. I felt the weight of Jen's gaze linger for a moment longer than it should have. My breath came in shallow bursts as I crouched behind the greenery, waiting for her to move on. With every second that passed, my resolve wavered. This wasn't just my job on the line. It was my entire life. Finally, she turned away, her heels clicking briskly on the polished floor. Giving myself one final moment of courage, I stepped out from behind the plants, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. The conference room door sighed shut behind her, sealing off the sinister plans that had begun to bubble amidst the pretense of corporate camaraderie. I needed to gather information, but where could I go? The office was a battlefield, and my allies were quickly turning to foes. I glanced around, my eyes landing on Sarah, the receptionist, her fingers flying over the keyboard. In her warm smile was a flicker of warmth and unseen kindness amidst the chaos. If anyone had the insight I needed, it would be her. I approached, my voice barely more than a whisper. Do you have a moment? She looked up, concern knitted into her brow. You look pale. What's wrong? I think they're trying to fire me, I confessed, the words tumbling out, raw and desperate. The truth hung between us like a dense fog. Sarah's expression shifted, the compassion in her eyes deepened, and she leaned in closer. I heard something about budget cuts. They might be looking to reduce staff, but there are ways to fight back. You just need to know who to talk to. In that moment, a glimmer of hope ignited within me. I felt the tight knot of anxiety in my chest loosen just enough to breathe. Perhaps this wasn't the end. Maybe there was a chance to save myself, my job, and everything I worked for. Can you help me? Of course. Just stay away from Jen and Alan for now. I'll dig into what I can find. Her voice was sincere, offering a lifeline amid the waves of despair. As we spoke, the air shifted. I could feel the uncertainty of my situation like a heavy cloud pressing down, but the warmth of Sarah's kindness twinkled like stars peeking through the darkness. I didn't want to burden her further. Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate it. Before I could walk away, she squeezed my arm gently, a gesture that both comforted and refueled my spirit. You're not alone. I know this is hard, but you're stronger than you think. Her words resonated in me as I returned to my desk, each step fueled by a flicker of determination. I began to compile everything I could remember about recent projects, deadlines, and any positive feedback. If Jen and Alan wanted to push me out, I would show them why I deserved to stay. As hours blurred into one another, I poured myself into my work. With each task completed, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, the swell of my frustration transforming into steadfast resolve. I remembered my mother's fighting spirit against her illness, how she had faced each day with unyielding courage. Her battle was an inspiration, a beacon guiding me through my own storm, but the silence of the waiting game was oppressive. As lunchtime rolled around, I decided to take a walk outside, hoping to clear my head. The crisp air filled my lungs, and I closed my eyes for a brief moment, savoring the sound of distant laughter and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with an incoming text from Sarah. My heart sank as I read the message. I overheard Jen talking to Alan. They're planning a meeting soon. I think it's about you. You need to be ready. The tension surged back, tightening its grip. I could almost hear the echoes of their whispered conversations, feel the looming threat hanging over me. I dashed back to the office, determination flooding my veins once more. But as I entered, my eyes locked onto Alan, standing in the break room with Jen. They were talking in hushed tones, their expressions intensely focused. In that pivotal moment, a sense of dread washed over me. It felt as if I had stumbled right into the eye of a storm. My next move had to be calculated. As I considered my options, my gaze fell on the framed photos lining the walls, moments of laughter, camaraderie, unity. I longed to return to that sense of belonging, but the path stretched ahead was daunting. Just then, I stepped backward, bumping into someone. I turned to see Dave, the IT guy, with a knowing look in his eyes. You all right, Maya? Before I could respond, his expression shifted, as if he had just made a choice. Listen, I've seen how they're treating you. Don't let it get to you. I might have access to something, just in case you need it. His words lingered, a glimmer of unexpected support, yet underlined by a sense of tension and urgency. I nodded, grateful for his kindness, but fear coiled tighter around me. Just when I thought I might have support at my back, I was struck by a sudden realization. What if this meeting was about more than just my job? What if there was something far more sinister beneath the surface? My heart raced wildly as I prepared for the impending confrontation. The weight of uncertainty pressed upon me, and I could feel the ground shifting beneath my feet once again. I took a deep breath, ready to brace for whatever storm lay ahead. But as the door swung open to the conference room, I felt a jolt of adrenaline. The whole world sharpened into focus, and with a final, trembling breath, I stepped into the unknown. The moment I crossed the threshold into the conference room, the air shifted, colliding with my chest like a heavy blow. Jen and Alan stood at one end of a long table, their faces a blend of authority and something more unrecognizable, perhaps guilt or even regret. I took a step forward, holding on to the flimsy threads of confidence I had woven. "Ah, Maya." "Perfect timing," Jen said, the false brightness in her tone dripping with insincerity. I could feel Alan's eyes on me, dissecting my every move as if I were an experiment gone wrong. "You wanted to see me?" I steadied my voice, desperate to project strength even as my heart raced. "Yes, we have some important updates to discuss regarding the team and future projects," Alan began, his features cooling into a businesslike mask. I noted the way his fingers drummed against the tabletop, a subtle trait that hinted at unease. My instincts screamed that this wasn't a typical meeting about projects. I glanced at the two of them, their postures rigid and defensive, and realized that the stakes were higher than I had anticipated. "First off, I wanted to reiterate that the company values the contributions of all employees," Jen said, folding her hands in front of her as she spoke slowly. I knew from experience that when someone chose their words so carefully, it was often a veil for betrayal. "However," she continued, drawing a breath that felt like the prelude to a storm, "we are needing to make some staffing decisions, some unfortunate budget cuts, as I mentioned before." I felt the world twist around me. The room seemed to dim, the brightness of the fluorescent lights transforming into a glaring spotlight focused only on me. "Unfortunate," I echoed, my voice laced with bitter irony. "I know you've faced a lot of challenges recently," Alan interjected, his eyes flickering with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "But we believe it may be best for everyone to consider new opportunities outside the company." His gaze fell away, a brief moment of vulnerability passing between us. Did he even believe his own words? "No." I burst out, the plea escaping before I could catch it. They exchanged a glance, something unspoken rippling through the air. Caught in the wave of my desperation, I forced myself to regain composure. "You can't just cut me like this without reason. I've contributed nothing but my best." Jen leaned forward, her sharp breath escaping through clenched teeth. "Maya, please listen. This is not personal. This is just business." "Business," I scoffed, disbelief surging within me. "You're willing to destroy lives for the sake of numbers." My pulse quickened, the mounting anxiety tasting like ash in my mouth. The words hung heavy, loud enough to shatter the sterile atmosphere, but to my dismay, neither reacted with anything other than a hardened gaze. "Unfortunately, it is what it is," Alan replied. "We'll officially announce the decision later, but I recommend you begin to think about your exit." A flash of anger ignited in me, a voluminous fire. "This isn't over," I stated, my voice unsteady yet resolute. "You'll see. I'll prove my worth." The door swung open, cutting off my defiance. Sarah stepped in, concern painted across her features. "I just overheard, is everything all right?" A voice behind me, the low timbre of Dave's, cut through the tension like a knife. "We need to talk to you about the network security issues. There's something you need to see." He glanced at me before he turned to Jen, becoming an unexpected player in this drama. The suddenness of his presence threw me off course. The sharp edge of betrayal, the reality of my fate, was momentarily dulled by the uncertainty that now filled the space. "What's this about?" Jen asked, a curious yet guarded expression crossing her face. "Sensitive information," Dave replied, his tone firm as he pulled Sarah aside. Their hushed dialogue filled the silence of the conference room, yet I couldn't understand the way they exchanged glances filled with urgency. My heart clamored in my chest, a tune of anxiety and anticipation. Was there a secret revelation at play? As they conferred, the gravity of my situation began to pummel me once more. I had hoped for a miracle, but was I about to witness something much darker? As I moved closer to hear, I caught fragments of their conversation, whistleblower and Chinese connections that wrapped around me like chains, tightening with each revelation. My breath hitched in my throat. Suddenly, I spotted Alan's unease again, and I would have bet my last nerve that he was wise to the truth buried within those whispers. A chilling thought rumbled within me. Was I the pawn in a twisted game involving more than just layoffs? As their conversation wound down, my heart raced, leaving me grasping at shadows of the unnameable truth. The room crackled with an unyielding tension, the stakes soaring higher than I could fathom. Just then, something inside me shifted. I would fight. There was something more significant than my job on the line. Hours later, as the sun dipped below the skyline, painting the office in shades of gold and shadow, I stood at my desk, my mind racing with the implications of what I had just overheard. I could feel the darkness encroaching, but, amidst it all, a well of resilience began to bloom, and then, just as the last light slipped away, my phone buzzed again. The message from Sarah gleamed on the screen, more urgent than ever. "Maya, we need to talk. This is about to get much worse." As terror rippled down my spine, I knew I was on the brink of a revelation that could change everything. That a cold knot of dread formed as I stared at the screen, knowing that whatever was coming would plunge me deeper into this treacherous heart of darkness. The fight ahead would demand every ounce of courage I could muster, but as uncertainty clawed at my resolve, I found a spark of determination igniting within me, pushing me forward into the unknown. Evening darkness settled over the city like a shroud, casting elongated shadows that seemed to linger in the corners of my thoughts. I anchored myself to my desk, the faint glow of my computer screen illuminating an ever-growing urgency that gnawed at my resolve. With my heart pounding at the thought of Sarah's message, I felt a strange mixture of fear and stubborn defiance coursing through me. Pushing myself away from the desk, I stormed out of my office, my mind racing with the knife edge of possibilities. I glanced around, searching for Sarah. The office was a labyrinth of muted conversations and fading energy. People were packing up, retreating home to their lives, but I had a more critical battle to face. "Sarah?" I called out as I stepped onto a dimly lit corridor, the soles of my shoes echoing softly against the cold tile. My voice carried an edge of desperation, breaking the stillness. The sound of hurried footsteps drew my attention. Sarah appeared from the shadows, her expression tinged with a mix of worry and resolve. "Maya, we really need to talk. Now." A quiet urgency threaded through her words, compelling me to follow her down the hallway to a small break room, stocked with a few leftover snacks and half-empty coffee cups. As the door clicked shut behind us, the air felt charged, a bubble of secrecy enveloping the two of us. "What is going on?" I asked, anxiety twisting in my gut. "What did you hear?" She looked at me, her eyes wide but steady. "I overheard Jen and Alan discussing not just the layoffs but also something very different regarding you." Her tone was low, conspiratorial. "They think you're a liability, someone who might expose a bigger scandal within the company. They've connected you to their vulnerability, especially because of your recent struggles." "What do you mean?" Panic rose in my throat, tight and constricting as if I were donning a noose. "How could they connect me to anything?" "Because they know about your stress," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "And they've weaponized it. They're not just planning to fire you, they want you to take the blame for potential leaks, to frame you as a whistleblower." The ground felt like it had given way beneath my feet. "This is insane!" I exclaimed, my heart racing. "But why? Why me? I've always been loyal." "I don't know why," she replied, her expression earnest, "but I worry they've dug deep. It's about more than just budget cuts. This is personal. They're trying to undermine everything you've built here." A heavy silence fell between us, the weight of her words settling over me like dust. "So, they're willing to sacrifice my career to protect their own. The garden of white lies is so thick, I can't even see through it," I said, flaring with indignation. "What can I do?" Sarah's brow furrowed, her determination surging as she leaned closer. "We need to gather evidence. Talk to others who might know something. See if anyone else has heard whispers about what is happening with the network or about you. You can't let them paint you as the villain in this." "But what if I can't find anything?" The fear clashed with my desperate need to act, a deadly game of tug-of-war within me. "They hold all the power." "They have power, yes," she affirmed, glowing with fierce conviction. "But they don't have the truth yet. That's where you come in. You're stronger than you think, Maya. You have a network of people who care about you. Let us leverage that. As her words began to sink in, a flicker of hope ignited within me. It felt fragile, but it was there a silent promise that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in this fight. Okay, I said, swallowing back my fear. I'll do it. I'll find out everything I can, and I'll make sure they see the truth. A soft, nervous smile broke on Sarah's face. Together, we'll figure it out. But we need to be discreet. If they catch even a hint of our plan, it could backfire. With resolve swelling within me, I felt a surge of strength like I hadn't experienced in months. The uncertainty that had trapped me now transformed into driving purpose. I stepped closer to Sarah, the bond of our shared purpose forging a connection that felt both profound and electric. As we strategized, her voice a steady anchor against the storm brewing around me, I felt my determination solidify. But just as I began to believe in our potential for victory, my phone buzzed again, shattering the fragile moment that a name I hadn't expected appeared on the screen. My brother, Ethan. It had been ages since we'd spoken, and just beneath my surprise sat a cold dread that coiled around my stomach. I hesitated before answering, knowing that nothing good ever came from interrupted silence. Hello. I answered, cautious of the impending conversation. Hey, Maya, his voice came through with an unfamiliar weight. I'm in town. I need to talk to you. It's about Mom. At the mention of our mother, a rush of helplessness surged within me. The conflict at work suddenly paled to the magnitude of what our mother was enduring, but I couldn't escape the suffocating chaos of corporate betrayal. Now? I asked, disoriented. What's wrong? What about Mom? Silence filled the line, thick and suffocating. The world outside the break room faded away as I prepared myself for whatever revelation was about to plunge me further into an ocean of turmoil. It's serious, Maya. You need to be ready for some bad news. I pressed my lips together, the knuckles of my hand turning white as I gripped the edge of the table. What do you mean, Ethan? Just tell me. I don't want to upset you, he hesitated, and I could almost hear the guilt drumming in his voice. But Mom has been having health issues. She didn't want you to worry, but I think it's worse than she's letting on. Panic crackled like electricity through my veins. What kind of health issues? Why wouldn't she let me know? I would have been there. She thought it would be better if you focused on your work, with everything that's going on, he said, his voice softer now, laced with an understanding that only a sibling could share. But I found out she's been forgetting things, big things. She's been confused more often, and I think she might need more help than she's willing to admit. Every word hit me like stones dropped into a still pond, sending ripples of dread coursing through me. My mother, the anchor of my childhood, the one who kept the family together despite the storms, was unraveling. How bad is it, Ethan? I barely whispered. Let us meet and talk, okay? I just got into town, and I need your help. Mom needs us. We can't ignore this. Ignoring the urgency in his voice was impossible. My heart made room for anxiety twisting with newfound responsibility. I'll be there. Just give me some time, I replied, my mind racing. How could I navigate this? How could I focus on the impending collapse of my career when my own mother was struggling? As I hung up, a wave of sorrow crashed over me, pushing the resolve I had just built with Sarah to the back of my mind. I looked across the table at her, my expression betraying the turmoil inside. Ethan just called. It's about Mom. Without a moment's hesitation, Sarah was at my side, her hand on my back. Maya, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do? I don't know, I said, voice thick with tears I didn't want to shed. I need to go meet him. There's something seriously wrong. Go. We'll figure this out together, she insisted. You can't not be there for your family. You need to take care of yourself first. Despite her encouragement, guilt clawed at my heart. But I can't just leave this hanging. The investigation. My words trailed off, the churning conflict within me intensifying. "Hey," she said gently, drawing my gaze back to her steady eyes. "Your family comes first. When you're ready, I'll be here. Let us not forget the truth you're after, but take care of your mom first. I'm with you in this." Her understanding settled over me, a brief relief cutting through the weight of my responsibilities. I nodded, even as the burden mounted anew, pressing down on me like a storm cloud as I turned to leave the break room. As I stepped into the hallway, the walls seemed to close in on my fractured resolve. The cacophony of office life felt alien around me, everyone else oblivious to the storms brewing in my personal sea. With each step towards the exit, memories of childhood played in my mind, every laugh shared, every comfort given by my mother, now juxtaposed with the fear of losing her essence as time continued its unforgiving march. When I reached the parking lot, I hesitated, my phone vibrating in my pocket again. Glancing at the screen, my stomach dropped. The message was from Jen. "We need to discuss your future, Maya. Meet me in the cafe by the office in 30. That simple text threatened to unravel the threads of my decision-making even further. I tried to shake it off, focusing on what lay ahead instead of what was yet to come. It was either linger in the oppressive heat of impending confrontation or dive headfirst into the need for family, and I chose family. As I drove toward the cafe where my brother awaited me, dread and worry painted the horizon of my thoughts. The image of my mother's smile haunted me, a beacon of light amidst encroaching darkness. I took a deep breath, trying to hold on to that flicker of hope that Sarah had ignited within me just before my world upended. If I couldn't rely on corporate loyalty, at least I had the love of my family to guide me. But what awaited me on this journey? I couldn't shake the feeling that shadows lurked on every corner, preparing for an unwelcome encounter. Pulling into the parking space outside the cafe, I spotted Ethan waiting, his face shadowed in thought. He looked older, weighed down by a burden that was equally mine. As I stepped out of the car, I felt one last tremor of doubt. Just then, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was an alert from my office email. I hesitated, mind racing as I wondered if it was just a notification or something more sinister. The impending news from my boss hung above me like a guillotine. I could either confront the alarming undercurrents at work or dive into the staggering reality ahead. Part of me wanted to stall and read that email, weigh my options, but I had already made my choice. I would face my mother's fears first, and pray that whatever awaited me with Jen could wait just a little longer. But as I turned from my car, I realized sometimes you have to step into the fray, and sometimes, decisions become irreversible the moment you act. My heart raced with uncertainty, and I knew that what I was about to face wouldn't just shake my foundations but could reveal shocking truths I was ill-prepared to handle. The cafe door swung open, and an overwhelming mix of aromas hit me, the rich scent of brewing coffee blended with sweet pastries, igniting memories of simpler times spent with Ethan over hot chocolate and waffles. Almost instinctively, I searched for a hint of normalcy in the ambience, a soft cushion against the weight of our impending conversation. Ethan was sitting at a small table at the back, his fingers drumming against the wood, his brow furrowed in concentration. As I approached, my heart seized at the sight of him, grappling with his own turmoil. I slid into the seat across from him, both of us suspended in a moment of quiet before the storm. "Maya," he started, his voice low but urgent. "Thank you for coming. I didn't want to make this worse for you, but I need you to understand how serious this is. Mom isn't just forgetting things. She's losing herself." It felt like every piece of my world was collapsing onto the table between us like shards of glass ready to cut through the tenderness of our memories. "How do you know this? Why didn't she call me? I could have helped her." Ethan swallowed hard, glancing down at his cup. "She wants to protect you, and I think she's ashamed. I had to convince her to let me help. She won't admit she needs us. It's like she's fighting against some darkness, and instead of asking for the light, she hides it." My throat tightened as I clenched my fingers around the mug. What do we do? What if this is something that can't just be fixed? The fear bubbled inside of me like a boiling pot, threatening to spill over. Ethan reached out, placing his hand over mine gently, a grounding force in a whirlpool of despair. We're going to figure this out. Together. We need to talk to her, encourage her to see a doctor. If we can get her on board, maybe we can start from there. Yes, okay, I nodded, hoping my voice would somehow be strong enough to hold our shared fear at bay. I'll do whatever it takes. But just as resolve settled between us, my phone buzzed again, jolting through the tension. It was another message from Jen, an ultimatum that struck like a whip across my consciousness. I expect to see you soon. There are things we need to discuss. Panic leaked into my thoughts, but I pushed it down, forcing myself to focus on what truly mattered. We can't let this go another day. I'll go see Mom now. I'll drive us over. He nodded, expression darkening. Good. Just remember, she may fight us at first. As we stood up to leave, a sudden rush of warmth swept through the cafe. A petite woman, a barista, appeared beside our table, her eyes alight with a kind familiarity. Excuse me, are you Maya? I blinked, momentarily surprised by the question. Yes. I'm so sorry to intrude, she continued, her face beaming with sincerity. I used to work with your mom when I was in high school. I just wanted to say how lovely she is. She always had a light about her that brightened everyone's day. Her words formed a lifeline thrown in turbulent waters, a reminder of my mother's spirit shining through the shadows. Thank you, that means a lot, I replied softly, my heart swelling with gratitude despite the imminent storm. With renewed determination, Ethan and I left the cafe, the weight of our conversation trailing behind us. As we drove through familiar streets, I glimpsed the little moments that once defined my childhood: the park where we built snowmen, the corner store where my mother always bought my favorite candy. Each scene tugged at my heart, a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. Upon arriving at our childhood home, I hesitated in the driveway, both the comfort of the past and uncertainty about the present swirling in my mind. Are you ready? Ethan asked, his voice steady but his eyes betraying his concern. It's time, I whispered, although I felt more like a child stepping into the dark. We walked up the porch steps together, the knots in my stomach tightening with each creak of the wood beneath our feet. Ethan knocked gently on the door, the sound echoing in the stillness. Moments later, Mom's voice called from within. Who is it? It's us, Mom. Can we come in? Ethan said, and I held my breath, waiting for her to answer. The door opened slowly, and there she stood, her hair a little more unkempt than I remembered, shadowed eyes glazed with confusion. Instantly, my heart shattered at the sight of her, as if all the warmth and light of her spirit had dimmed just a fraction, and I saw before me the battle she was fighting, even if she couldn't name it. Hi, sweet, she began, but her voice faltered as she focused on us. I could see the flicker of recognition in her eyes, quickly followed by something else: fear. What are you doing here? She asked stiffly, stepping back as if retreating from something she couldn't confront. The words threatened to tangle in my throat, but Ethan stepped forward, voice steady yet concerned. Mom, we need to talk. As the door creaked wider, I felt the air thickening with the urgency of a million unsaid words, the cycle of denial ready to shatter at any moment. Mom's gaze flicked between us, uncertainty brimming, and it became painfully clear that the stakes were rising not just for her but for all of us. Just as I was about to speak, my phone buzzed again. The urgency of the message sent a chill down my spine, one that I knew would change everything. I glanced quickly at the screen, hardly prepared for the news that would clash wildly against the fragile moment unfolding before us. Your position has been compromised. Join us or face the consequences. The air stalled in my lungs, and the world around me blurred as I stared at the stark words, reality shifting beneath my feet. Would I betray my own career for a family crumbling? I felt torn between two fires, unsure which flame would burn brighter. Mom, please, I started, but her eyes were already glazing over with apprehension, her heart retreating. This was only the beginning, and every step we took felt weighted with the gravity of our choices. As that moment stretched into an eternity, I realized the truth: life's decisions often lay between love and survival, and I had just stepped into the midst of an unraveling storm. The room felt heavy, as though the air itself was thick with unspoken fears and unshed tears. My mother's figure looked small and withdrawn, the laughter that once filled every corner now replaced by the silent echo of uncertainty. Ethan shifted beside me, silently urging me to continue, but my voice was lost in the storm of my thoughts. "Mom," I finally managed, my voice fragile. "We're here because we care about you. We're worried." Her expression shifted, a fleeting moment of vulnerability shining through the fog of confusion. I could see her desire to push us away, to retreat into the sanctuary of denial. "I'm fine. I don't need anything, not from you too. Please, just listen to us," Ethan interjected softly, his hand reaching out to bridge the distance. "This isn't just about you anymore. You're not alone in this fight." Mom's eyes darted to the side as if searching for an escape from the truth we were laying bare. I could feel her tension thickening the space between us, a barrier reinforced by years of pride and stubbornness. "Do you remember when you used to tell me that to be brave wasn't about never being scared, but about confronting what scares you?" I offered, my heart throbbing as I tried to reach her in a way she might understand. Her breath hitched, and for a split second, I thought I caught a glimmer of recognition, a familiar echo of the love we had shared. "That was a long time ago," she muttered, her posture softening slightly. "Things are different now." "Maybe they are, but that doesn't mean we can't help," I pressed, my voice stronger now, encouraged by the hope that flickered within me. Just then, the phone buzzed again, but I ignored it, knowing that whatever news awaited on the other side wasn't as critical as what stood before me. "Mom, you don't have to fight this alone," I said, stepping closer to her, the warmth of my presence mingling with the cool air that separated us. "We're here. We're family, and we can face anything together. But you have to let us in." Her eyes watered slightly, and I saw a memory flash behind them, perhaps of our old family vacations, the laughter, the days when everything felt indestructible. "I'm not the person I used to be," she whispered, a tremble in her voice. "Then let us help you find that person again," Ethan urged gently, clearly wanting to break the dam holding back her tears. "You're not alone in this dark time. We can get through it as a family." Finally, the walls she had built around herself began to crack. "But what if I can't go back?" she asked, almost to herself. "You won't know unless you try," I chimed in, my heart racing as I fought against the urge to retreat, to cover the wounds that now felt exposed. "You have the courage within you. We believe in you, Mom." A beat of silence passed, punctuated by the whispers of hope that filled the room. Her gaze softened, the crinkle lines around her eyes speaking volumes of the emotional battle waging within. "I don't know how to be that person anymore. You don't have to have all the answers." Ethan took a step closer, his deep-set eyes full of concern and conviction. "Let us take it step by step together." Just when I thought there might be a breakthrough, my phone buzzed vehemently once more, breaking through the fragile moment we had crafted. This time, I felt a nagging sensation that I couldn't ignore it. Shaking slightly, I pulled the device from my pocket and glanced at the screen. "Meet me in the alley behind the offices at 7. You know what happens if you refuse." The weight of the ultimatum settled over me like a suffocating fog. I felt an immediate rush of dread at the thought of the dark choices looming ahead. The timing couldn't be worse, and I instinctively knew it was woven into the deceit I had felt brewing for weeks within my workplace. "Who is it?" Ethan's voice was tight, and I realized I hadn't meant to show him the message, but now it was too late. I don't," I stammered, feeling transparency slip through my fingers like sand. The room felt like it was closing in, our previous vulnerability replaced by the hard truth of my life outside this fragile space that had just begun to stitch itself back together. The recognition on my mother's face only added weight to the atmosphere. "Maya, what was that?" The tension snapped, and for the first time, I felt a chasm growing, pulling us apart despite the bonds of love that once held us close. "It's nothing," I insisted, but my voice lacked conviction. "Nothing? Is that why you've been distracted?" she challenged, a spark igniting as she registered the shift in my demeanor. No, I started, but her watchful gaze raked through me, demanding truth, demanding connection. I want to help you, she said fiercely, a wildness in her eyes that gave me hope and fear all at once. But you need to share what is happening. Who is making demands of you? The clock was ticking, and with it, the air became saturated with danger and the possibility of sacrifice. I glanced at Ethan, whose expression mirrored my own silent panic. The clock was not merely counting down to 7, it was counting down to the moment when I would have to choose between my professional life and my family, a collision bound to devastate those I loved most. Before I could respond, the tension that had once brewed in our hearts now simmered visibly in the room, heavy with the secrets waiting to burst forth. I had stepped into unfamiliar waters, the turbulence of love interwoven with the threat of loss threatening to pull us under. Maya, Ethan whispered, grounding me again, whatever it is, we can face it together, too. And as my heart raced, the truth was clear, my decisions were suddenly echoing louder than before, each choice threatening to carve us into two irreconcilable worlds. As the clock ticked ominously within the stillness, I felt the weight of Ethan's gaze anchor me, a reminder of the fragile bond we shared, one that was now at a precipice. The unknown loomed before me, and the darkness whispered threats that entwined themselves around my conscience. Mom, please, can you give me a moment? I asked, desperately wanting to create space to think. My voice trembled with unshed tears, grappling for clarity amid the chaos. She nodded, uncertain, eyes glimmering with both concern and an unspoken request for transparency, as if she could see the edges fraying around the truth. I stepped out of earshot, retreating to the far corner of the room where I could gather my thoughts, although they were scattered like leaves in a storm. The message burned in my hand, a reminder of shadows that had silently infiltrated my life. Who is it, really? Ethan's voice returned, softer now, breaking through my spiraling panic. It's just work, I mumbled, knowing full well that the truth was a far more complex tapestry. Just work? You sound like that can cover it. Maya, this isn't just a vague threat, it's a fire beneath your feet, he replied, his brows knit together with concern. What is happening at your job? Trust me, I could handle the truth. I took a deep breath, the air thick and suffocating. Look, it's complicated. There's been talk of layoffs, and I might lose my job. So this ultimatum, I hesitated, searching Ethan's expression for understanding. The boy who had once cheered me on from the sidelines was now my steadfast reminder of loyalty. It's from my boss. A threat, really? Threat? He echoed incredulously. That is serious. Ethan, I don't know what to do. If I don't show, I risk everything. If I do, my voice trailed off, the unspeakable possibilities hanging heavily between us. Why not just talk to someone? Seek help. Can't we figure it out with your mom included? His voice cracked slightly, reflecting the emotions swirling inside him that I shook my head. You don't get it. I couldn't in good conscience involve mom with this. It's my burden, and my words faltered, but somewhere deep within, I feared the chasm growing between the reality of my job and the warmth of my family. Resignation slipped through the cracks of my thoughts, leaving behind a sense of heavy defeat, and Ethan stepped closer, crossing the line of judgment and stepping into support. You're not alone, you know. You don't have to take it all on yourself. In the room, I could sense her listening, my mother, waiting in the wings. A new resolve illuminated the air momentarily, and I found myself yearning to artfully weave the conversation back. Even amidst my predicament, I wished to shield her from the sorrow I felt swirling inside. With a nod, I moved back to her, the flicker of hope and struggle exchanging glances as she met my gaze. Mom, I began, my voice catching. I need your help. I'm facing something huge at work and I can see it. You're scared, she interrupted, the worry shrouding her voice clear. What's more frightening, Maya, is that you're holding it inside. Empathy poured from her, blankets of shared fears merging alongside the gulf of secrets we both often carried that I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of honesty bearing down on me, an urge to unveil every dark thought. My job is under threat, Mom. There are talks dangerous ones. If I don't comply, I might lose everything. I could feel the walls close in as I confessed, her reaction weighing just as heavily as my admission that a wave of emotion washed over her face, a throbbing deep within her heart showing its struggle between worry and the desire to protect. What do you mean, comply? Compliance with whom? The questions piled on, each a plea for clarity. Before I could respond, there was a sudden knock on the door. It felt like a collision of worlds, my realm of fear, and whatever unexpected moment was to come crashing in. The shadows of uncertainty grew as I turned, the door creaking open to reveal the last person I expected, my boss. That he stood there, the corners of his mouth shadowed by a tightly restrained smirk, eyes glimmering with a mix of entitlement and something darker. The heaviness loomed even more palpably in the room as tension rippled between us. Maya, he said, his tone deceptively casual. I believe we have a few things to discuss. I felt the color drain from my face. The revelation that he'd come into my home, confronting me in front of the people I held dearest, ignited a wildfire of panic. It wasn't just my job at stake but our very family's solace. It felt now that the stakes of my world had turned against me with the most brutal of twists. Are you here to intimidate? I said, each word dripping with the defiance I barely mustered in the face of his looming presence. Intimidate? No, sweetheart, he said, a condescending smile twisting his lips. I'm here to discuss your future, not just as an employee but what else is on the line. You should know that some secrets are harder to keep than you think. The underlying threat hung between us, and as I looked into my mother's eyes and then back at Ethan, a realization struck me: this was more than a job. This was my path intertwined with the ones I loved, my choices spilling over into their lives. And yet, as the pulse of betrayal and determination surged through me, I recognized that the shadows would soon reveal whether my bravery was enough to shield my family from the darkness stretching its arms toward us. What would I choose? What consequences awaited? In that moment, standing before my boss draped in the weight of consequence, time stood still. The tension crackled, heralding a new chapter, an overwhelming wave of fear resonating deep within. The stakes were impossibly high, and as uncertain as the aftermath would be, I realized my heart had never beat with more urgency. The room thickened with an anxiety so palpable it felt like a living entity, breathing down our necks. My boss's unsettling smirk widened as he stepped further into the space between us, the atmosphere growing electric with unspoken accusations and fear. My heart drummed a frantic rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the ticking clock's relentless echo in the background. I imagine by now you've gathered that your position isn't quite as secure as you thought, Maya, he said, his tone deceptively gentle. There's a storm brewing, and I think you're smart enough to recognize it. I glanced at Ethan, his brows knitted together in disbelief, his eyes searching mine for reassurance I couldn't conjure. I sensed my mother's presence, a steadfast figure behind me, but even her warmth felt insufficient against the chill prickling my skin. I steeled myself, summoning whatever spark of courage resided within my trembling frame. What storm? I asked, the challenge unexpected even for me. If you think you can bully me into compliance with vague threats, you're mistaken. His smile faltered for a fleeting moment before plastering itself back into place, an unsettling mask concealing what might lie beneath. It seems you misunderstand, Maya. This isn't just about you anymore, it's about the people connected to you, your loved ones. You see, whispers travel far, and every conversation within those walls can stir the winds of change. My stomach churned as the realization dawned, a sickening wave crashing over me. What do you mean? I asked, my voice wavering despite my effort to sound decisive, but rather than respond directly, he turned to face my mother. Mrs. Ramirez, he began, feigning politeness, you've raised quite a resilient daughter. But you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I hope you're prepared for what a little birdie told me about your past. It seems there are secrets even you have failed to shield her from. Panic coursed through me, a tidal wave of dread surging unchecked. Stop! I shouted, my voice quivering with the weight of desperation. Don't you dare involve her in this. He shrugged, appearing unperturbed by my emotional outburst. Like you said, Maya, it's my job to know the ins and outs of my employees. Your past, your mother's past, it all intertwines. And now you must consider that the choices you make will ripple through your family. Can you truly afford not to comply? A painful silence enveloped us, thick with ambiguity. My mother's face betrayed shock and confusion, her breath caught in her throat as she processed his words. She had spent her life protecting me from shadows, and now, in one fell swoop, everything I'd been shielding her from felt like it was spiraling beyond my control. Who have you been talking to? I demanded. What do you know about my mom that I don't? His eyes glowed with a wicked triumph, as if he relished in my mounting panic. More than you can imagine, my dear. I advise you to tread carefully. Silence can be golden, but it can also lead to devastating consequences both for you and your family. As I stood there, my body thrumming with the inconceivable weight of fear and anger, Ethan stepped forward, shielding me with an unexpected warmth. You won't get away with this, he spat at my boss, his voice raw and unwavering despite the risky nature of his intervention. My boss turned, eyeing him with mild disdain. Ah, young love is quite sweet, isn't it? But it can also blind you to the true dangers lurking around you. You both are young, and that naivety can lead to ruin. A chill settled into my bones as I wrestled with the reality lingering in the air. My choices reached beyond the parameters of work, they encroached upon the sanctity of home, family, and the very people I cherished most. My heart swelled with determination, yet the gnawing fear for their safety caged my resolve. Leave my family out of your threats, I warned, my voice low but fierce. I won't let you exploit them. With a disapproving shake of his head, he replied, Oh, Maya, but you already have. You're at a crossroads, and whether you like it or not, you must choose wisely. Today, I'll leave you with this reminder, some secrets consume us. I suggest you uncover the truth before it's too late. With that, he turned, retreating back out the door that had heralded his unsettling presence. The door clicked shut, and in an instant, the oppressive weight lifted slightly but not without leaving behind a fractured sense of resolve that I turned to find my mother staring at me, her eyes wells of unuttered fears and pain. What did he mean? She implored, words taut with concern. Ethan stepped close, a gesture of unity in a moment that suddenly felt unbearably fragile. Maya, we can find a way through this. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. But despite that glimmer of hope, dread wrapped itself tighter around my heart. As I stood there with the two people who mattered most, the nightmare of uncertainty loomed ever closer, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had only just begun to scratch the surface of what would unravel, and then it hit me: what if the whispers my boss had tapped into referred not only to my mother but to a deeper truth within our family's past? As I glanced between Ethan and my mother, the stakes loomed larger, no longer just about my job but something more, something dangerous lurking in the shadows of our lives. The question burned in my mind as a chill cascaded down my spine: was my mother hiding secrets that could shatter everything I thought I knew? Once the door clicked shut behind my boss, a haunting silence enveloped the room, the air crackling with questions left hanging like unguarded threads. The weight of his words clung to my skin, each syllable wrapping tighter around me as I faced Ethan and my mother, who stood bewildered in the wake of our confrontation. In that moment, the world outside melted away, a cascade of noise and motion reduced to hushed echoes beyond our fragile bubble. Mom, I finally dared, my voice shaking as the barrier of fear shifted again, pushed by the tumult of emotions we had yet to confront. What did he mean? My gaze searched hers, hoping for clarity, desperate for the strength that had always tethered our family together. Her expression faltered, a labyrinth of emotions flickering across her face: fear, confusion, and perhaps guilt. There are things in my past, things I should have told you, but I thought I was protecting you. Her voice was a whisper, the admission trembling between us like a thin filament straining against the weight of the truth. Protecting me from what? Ethan pressed, his own concern mirrored in the intensity of our shared ordeal. The walls felt like they were closing in, a confining cocoon that held on to precious memories but wrapped them in darkness, obscuring the truth just beyond our reach. From everything, she murmured, the weight of her words settling heavily in the air. From the choices I made, the mistakes that led us here. My heart raced, aching to understand. I stepped closer, grounding myself in the intimacy of those sacred moments as I touched her arm, a silent plea to open the floodgates of honesty. "I'll never know what you've faced if you don't let me in," I said, my own vulnerability spilling forth. "Our family isn't defined by what you've done, it's about how we stand together now. Please, Mom, tell us." In the briefest moment of hesitation, I recognized the vulnerability of the journey we were about to embark on, a journey sewn together with transparent threads weaving through the tapestry of our lives, and then, she began. She spoke of choices made in the shadows of desperation, how secrets had burgeoned like weeds, choking the plants of honesty and connection. Stories of her early adulthood, choices that had forged barriers between her and the people she loved most, financial struggles, a debt hinging upon decisions that felt both imprudent and vital. Each word stripped away the veneer of the past, revealing the frailty of humanity lurking beneath. "I never wanted you to see me as weak," she confessed, broken yet sturdy in her honesty, a beacon amidst the creeping shadows. "It was easier to silence the truth than to let it fracture our family. But now, it seems, history has a way of catching up." As she laid bare the delicate pieces of her past, I took a breath that felt like unlocking a door I didn't know was closed. Memories emerged, the rituals, the struggles, the laughter born from love despite the realities pressing against us. "I'm sorry," she whispered, clear tears cascading down her cheeks. "I thought if I kept it all hidden, I could protect you. Instead, I see how it's threatened everything." As I watched her, vulnerable and strong, something stirred within me. Suddenly, it was clear that the truths we avoided were the ones that could forge new connections. I reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. "You didn't build these walls alone. We can tear them down together." Ethan stood beside me, his presence a silent testament to the unyielding bonds of family. "Whatever is coming, we'll face it as a team." Through her teary gaze, a flicker of gratitude ignited within my mother. "I never wanted you kids to bear the weight of my past. I see now that keeping secrets is what might shatter us." Taking in the gravity of our moment, I felt the tightly wound tension begin to loosen within the confines of our home, the air growing lighter as we embraced our shared resolve. "It's never too late to change how our story ends," I replied, my voice unwavering, echoing the hollow churn of uncertainty that once consumed me, but. As the heaviness lifted, like clouds parting after a storm, I sensed the shadows creeping back, restless and full of their own urgency, the dark hands of corporate greed understanding far too much. Just as we began to piece together our emotional foundation, the harsh reality of our external conflicts crept back in. Before we could breathe in fresh hope, my phone buzzed again, vibrating violently against the table. A deep chasm opened in my chest, with hesitant fingers trembling. I glanced at the screen, my heart racing at the new message, a reminder of the stakes woven around us. But this time, it felt profoundly different. "Meet me tonight. It's time to reveal everything. We know the entire truth." My mouth went dry as I inhaled sharply. I didn't need to read the sender's name, the implications roared like thunder in my mind. Would I put everything I loved to balance on my decision alone? "Who is it?" Ethan's voice splintered through the tension. Just as the truth felt within our grasp, it slipped away, tethered to danger I desperately wanted to shield from them, but I couldn't carry this burden alone. I had to confront the darkness unraveling in layers, forces that might twist the fate of our family into obscurity. "It's the final ultimatum," I disclosed, my voice strained but anchored by the love I felt for the two people before me. The air thickened, emotions swinging wildly as my mother's expression shifted, melding fear with a fierce urgency I noticed mirrored within myself. "Maya, whatever is happening, I stand by you." "We all do," she asserted, her resolve restoring the flickering candle in my chest. Together, we faced the truth, more united than ever before. Everything was on the line, and in the strength of that unity, I sensed the impending culmination of our choices, the revelation of our truths birthed from a vulnerability that could either shatter us or propel us toward new beginnings. As the clock ticked toward the meeting, I turned toward the two faces imprinted within my soul, so often the guardians of my heart, and now entrusted to be pillars of strength. No matter what happens, we'll meet this head-on. Together. And with that, the storm of emotion subsided, leaving behind the echo of new possibilities, a heartbeat nurturing forgiveness, redemption, and a future that would honor our past. In that moment, standing in the dim light of my childhood home, we flickered bravely into the unknown, knowing that no matter what awaited us in the shadows, the essence of spirit and love would usher us forth. The greatest alliances are often born from the recognition of shared struggles, woven tightly enough to face the darkest storms together. And as we prepared to unearth our truths, one final realization settled into the silence: home is not where peace always resides, but where the heart dares to fight for love against the dark. With that profound understanding, our breaths intertwined, ready to confront the truth that lay ahead. Sometimes, love is the fiercest storm we carry within us, and sometimes, it's also the light that guides us out of the shadows.